So let's talk about this Spurs versus Warriors game. Yesterday we saw the Spurs and the Warriors play. They've been two teams which have played a lot of preseason recently for very obvious reasons. The game started off with a goaltend by the Warriors and then a huge three by Clay just in motion, just catch it, shoot it, psychopathic shot. You know, and when we look at this game, we really saw a good. Well, actually, the game started with Steph and Wembanyama having a jump ball, the jump ball in the middle, which was pretty funny because since the Warriors know that no one can beat Wembanyama in a jump ball, what they did was they were just like, we're just gonna put Steph Curry on them for comedy, and it's gonna get buzz. So I really like that. It shows why the Warriors are always so relevant because they know how to feed into what the media wants, but also be able to be a great team. Through this game, and through preseason, we've seen really the Warriors be what they are going to be. They've been actually playing the first quarters with their full lineup out there. It's not like they run lineups which are, a bit injured or slowed down. Like they're running their lineups, right? They're running Chris Paul, they're running Steph. They're seeing what works. You see, like the last game, they benched Chris Paul, like he came off the bench. This game, Steph and Chris both started. And with the Spurs, they're just trying to figure out what team complements Wemby the best. Something that I do want to say is that the Spurs have now won 3 preseason games. Now, I know that they're a much younger team, but it's a good trend to see that Wemby, and even in the limited minutes that he's playing, right, as he's only playing 21 minutes per game, or at least he played 21 minutes in this last game, is really getting up his shots and really being able to be a real difference maker on the offense. I know that everyone saw that one play where Wemby blocked a jump shot, as he's been doing that consistently, but I'm going to talk about that later. But he blocked the jump shot and went on the other end and dunked it, and just almost didn't look real that this guy can actually be in the league and play NBA basketball. All that I want to say is I like how he plays, because even through stronger defenders and players, he doesn't normally, look for fouls. He plays to not get injured, but also be able to, get his shot through and or at least make the right pass. I do like his journey to gain more muscle. It's been apparent that that's a real big thing for him. And honestly, when we look at this game, we saw that Wembanyama had 5 blocks, and from what I saw of the game, 3 of them were in jump shots, right? It wasn't like, and there was another sequence, right, where he blocked Wiggins in a mid-range, close to the rim jump shot. He blocked Wiggins, hear me out. He blocked Wiggins, and then he went on the other end, dribbled it down, hit a 3. It's like, if that is not impressive, right, and if that is not like what a superstar looks like and what the future of the NBA looks like, that I don't know what does. Right now, I would buy Wemby stock. I think he's extremely high, and I think he's been making really all the great moves. He's not a fake prospect, and we could see that because even when he plays against some of the best defensive players, right, or strong players, he still can get his shot through. And we saw in this game that it really benefited, the Warriors. It really benefited the Spurs that the Warriors didn't have anyone who was long enough in terms of size to, compete against Wembanyama, right? The matchup I'm really waiting for is San Antonio versus Phoenix. And so, stuff like that really interests me, as I really want to see, like who's playing, who's not. And also, I want to talk about how the Tuesday we have the Phoenix versus Golden State game. But as I keep talking about this game, I just wanted to say, like, both of these teams are great, but the Spurs won this game. They won 122 to 117. They won by 5 points. So it wasn't like they had to hit a game-winning 3 or they had to, they won comfortably enough to have a 2-possession game in their hands. When that's the case, I believe that we're talking about a team in the Warriors, which, yes, they played their stars more in that game. But, this team just went off against the Kings and had to hit a game-winning three and play all their stars regular minutes just to beat the Kings. And now we see them against the Spurs, and they get beat in that first quarter, and then they bench their stars, right? And then they just put their bench out there with Chris Paul and Kuminga and Clay. But in my opinion, what we really saw in this game that I really liked was how good the Spurs can be. You know, it's not overstated that one good star makes everyone in the team better. And we've seen this just from players who can always get their own but also help their teammates, you know. Wemby, LeBron, Jordan, you know, these guys really, like, especially with a guy like LeBron, we've seen those guys, their teams be able to feed off of their abilities, and it normally comes from two things. That person being able to have their own shot, not run the entire offense, right? Because normally if a player is in a bad system, but they're running the entire offense, then there's a problem, right? Unless you're an anomaly like LeBron. Or, right, or that player is just great defensively and offensively, and you could just feed on both ends off of how many extra points they just make you by them being good. And we've seen this with a lot of dudes, most notably LeBron, where we could really see the team just have and play easier basketball due to a lot of different, you know, a lot of different aspects. And we saw this yesterday, right? Like, one of the things that impressed me is when Wemby's in the three-point line, Jonathan Kuminga is out there with him, right? And there was an actual play where they had to leave Stephen Curry and Gary Payne II basically helping on a center. And if you see the court, Devin Vassell has the ball in the top left wing, right? He's being guarded by Chris Paul. And then Jeremy Sohan, which is obviously a big man, is in the three-point position with his man fully lasered on him because he knows that Jeremy Sohan could either drive in, right, or that he has a lot of energy to move around or shoot that three, and he could make that. So his man, the big man, has to go up to the three. Wembanyama is in the top of the key with Jonathan Kuminga pasted onto his body. Then on the other corner, right? Well, no. I'm sorry. Keldon Johnson has the ball on the left, the wing guarded by Chris Paul. Then in the other corner, in the right wing, right, you have Devin Vassell with Curry helping on him, and he's basically wide open. And in the paint, you have Zach Collins guarded by a guard, right, with the paint wide open to himself, and he gets fouled. And in my opinion, that shows the epitome of how Wembanyama impacts the game, you know? Because from that play, they passed it to Collins in the middle. He got an and one on GP2, and it was just really effective basketball. And when we see that, we see how much Wembanyama breaks down the defense. And we saw this from LeBron. We saw this from Giannis originally, but you know, teams have figured out how to guard Giannis, and I'm sorry, but it's true. You know, teams, I'm sorry, they're not that scared of Giannis. They know how to put bodies in front of him, and even if he has a crazy game, they know that Giannis prefers to shoot it than for him to pass it, right? But, like, this is for, like, early Giannis, young LeBron, where we see guys and teams have to, like, there's another play, the very next play after this, where the Spurs had the ball on offense. There were 5 people who all had their feet going backwards because they saw Wembanyama in the paint. Wembanyama had Chris Paul and Klay Thompson, and Zach Collins got a wide open three, top of the key, with the center guarding him. So when we see that, right, we see what Wembanyama brings to the table. For this game, I just want to say I didn't mention stats that much. Steph Curry played really badly. He dropped 11 points. You know, Victor dropped 19. Zach Collins dropped 13. As we were just talking about, Devin Vassell dropped 13. Shout out to his extension. Kevon Looney, 7, very effective. But everyone on the Warriors struggled except Dario Saric off the bench and Jonathan Kuminga off the bench. I just want to say that just to wrap up some basic general stats. Leading scores in each team, Moses Moody for the Warriors. Great game in 17 minutes, scored 18 points. And 19 for Wembanyama and the Spurs. Also, special shout out, you know, to Gary Payne II because I saw his defense and he was playing the best defense that he could have played in this game. So anyway, all that I wanted to say, leaving that there is, I think that Wembanyama is a real threat to be one of the greatest players of all time. And I don't say that because of his obvious size and his abilities and anything of that. I say that just because of how much easier he makes basketball for his team. Wembanyama, as I said previously, he has that LeBron effect, where because he is so good at basically everything, right, except maybe playmaking, he is a threat from anywhere on the court. So any single time that your defense has to guard him, you have to go to him. He doesn't have to go to you. He can block shots. He can make threes. He can make mid-rangers. He can slash to the rim. He can get fouled. And he can do all of this meanwhile rebounding really well and, reading passing lanes decently enough for a center. So when we see that, we're saying when you're guarding Wembanyama, it makes it so much easier for his team that he could probably just win a championship off of his gravity. And that's crazy to say for a rookie. Well, tell me what you think about this, about Wembanyama, about the way that he plays the game. And in my opinion, I love this matchup. Shout out to the Spurs for winning. See you next video.